Maya woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Adrian moving quietly in the kitchen area. Sunlight streamed through the windows, though in Iceland's November, sunrise came late and sunset early. She dressed quickly in professional attire, a deep blue blouse and tailored black pants, preparing herself mentally for the day ahead. When she emerged from the bedroom, Adrian handed her a cup of coffee, already prepared the way she liked it. The fact that he had noticed her preference, 2 creams and 1 sugar, sent warmth through her chest. "Ready for your presentation?" he asked, studying her with those penetrating gray eyes. "As ready as I'll ever be," Maya admitted. "I've practiced it 100 times, but presenting to international climate scientists is still nerve-wracking." "You'll be brilliant," Adrian said with certainty. "Your research on atmospheric carbon cascade patterns is groundbreaking. They would be fools not to recognize it." The conference center was a modern glass structure built into the hillside, utilizing geothermal heating and sustainable design. Maya's presentation was scheduled for the afternoon, giving her the morning to attend other sessions and manage her anxiety. Adrian sat beside her during the morning panels, occasionally leaning close to whisper observations about the presentations. Each time his breath brushed her ear, Maya had to force herself to focus on the speakers rather than his proximity. When her turn came, Maya walked to the podium with her heart pounding. She pulled up her slides, took a deep breath, and began. Her research examined how atmospheric carbon patterns could cascade into feedback loops, potentially accelerating climate change beyond current models. She had spent 18 months gathering data, running simulations, and developing predictive algorithms. As she spoke, her nervousness faded. This was her passion, her calling. She fielded questions from the audience with confidence, explaining her methodology and defending her conclusions against skeptical inquiries. From the front row, Adrian watched her with an expression she had never seen before. Pride, certainly, but something deeper, something that made her stumble over her words before recovering. When she finished to enthusiastic applause, Adrian was the first to stand, leading the ovation. Their eyes met across the room, and Maya felt something shift between them, a recognition of equals, rather than supervisor and subordinate. That evening, they returned to the cabin as the northern lights began their display again. Adrian built a fire while Maya changed into comfortable clothes, jeans and a soft sweater. When she returned, he had opened a bottle of wine and was sitting on the floor by the fireplace, his laptop and papers spread around him. "Join me," he invited, patting the space beside him. Maya settled onto the floor, accepting the glass of wine he offered. They reviewed conference notes together, discussing the day's presentations and implications for their own research. "Your presentation was exceptional," Adrian said, setting aside his papers. "I've known your work was good, but seeing you present it today, I realized I've been underestimating you, not just as a researcher, but as a scientist in your own right." "Thank you," Maya said quietly. "That means a lot coming from you." "Maya, I need to tell you something." Adrian turned to face her fully, the firelight casting shadows across his features. "I've been fighting an attraction to you for months. I told myself it was inappropriate, that you were my subordinate, that I was betraying Elena's memory. But today, watching you shine, I realized I've been lying to myself." Maya's breath caught. "Adrian." "Let me finish," he said gently. "I know this is complicated. I know I'm your subordinate. I know I'm damaged goods, still grieving a wife I lost 5 years ago. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel this connection between us." Maya set down her wine glass with trembling hands. "I've had feelings for you since I started working at the university, but I never thought you saw me as anything more than a research assistant." "I saw you," Adrian said, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've always seen you. That's what terrified me." The tenderness in his touch made tears spring to Maya's eyes. "What are we doing, Adrian? This could destroy both our careers." "I know," he admitted. "But right now, in this moment, I don't care. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of hiding from life because I'm scared of loss. Elena would hate what I've become, this ghost going through the motions." Maya turned away, standing abruptly and walking to the window. The northern lights danced across the sky, green and purple ribbons of impossible beauty. She felt Adrian approach behind her, felt the heat of his body close to hers. "Adrian," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. She started to turn away, to retreat to the safety of the bedroom and professional boundaries, but then his hand gently touched her shoulder, and he whispered something that froze her completely. "Don't go. Please stay with me tonight. Just talk with me. I haven't felt this alive in 5 years, and I'm not ready for it to end." The vulnerability in his voice, the raw honesty, shattered the last of Maya's defenses. She turned to face him, finding his eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'm scared," she admitted, "of being hurt, of not being enough, of losing myself in loving someone who might not fully love me back." Adrian cupped her face in both hands, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "I'm scared too," he said. "But maybe being scared together is better than being safe and alone." They stood like that for a long moment, the northern lights painting colors across their faces. Then Maya made her choice. She leaned into him, and Adrian wrapped his arms around her, holding her as if she were something precious. They talked through the night, curled together by the fireplace. Adrian told her about Elena, about their love and her death, about his guilt for surviving. Maya shared her own fears, about never feeling good enough, about her parents' expectations, about choosing career over personal life until she found herself alone at 28. As dawn approached, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, they fell asleep on the sofa, wrapped in each other's arms. And for the first time in 5 years, Adrian slept without nightmares. Maya woke to find herself still in Adrian's arms, morning light filtering through the windows. For a moment, panic seized her. They had crossed a line, blurred boundaries that could never be redrawn. But then Adrian stirred, his arms tightening around her, and she felt peace settle over her. "Good morning," he murmured, his voice rough with sleep. "Good morning," Maya replied, pulling back enough to see his face. Adrian looked younger in the morning light. The lines of stress around his eyes softened. He reached out, tracing her jawline with gentle fingers. "I should regret this," he said quietly, "but I don't." "I don't either," Maya admitted. They had breakfast at the lodge, and Maya noticed the way conference attendees watched them with speculation. Their changed dynamic was obvious, the careful distance replaced by an ease that spoke of intimacy. Dr. Peterson from MIT raised an eyebrow when Adrian held out Maya's chair. Dr. Yamamoto from Tokyo smiled knowingly when they shared a private joke. During the afternoon break, Adrian suggested a walk to nearby geothermal springs he had researched. The path wound through volcanic landscape, steam rising from fissures in the earth. The spring itself was a natural pool surrounded by snow, the water heated by the Earth's core to a perfect temperature. "I brought swimsuits," Adrian said, pulling 2 from his backpack. "I thought we might need a break from the conference." They changed behind rocks, and Maya felt self-conscious as she waded into the steaming water in her modest one-piece. But when Adrian joined her, wearing swim trans that revealed a lean, athletic build she had only imagined, self-consciousness gave way to desire. They floated in the warm water, surrounded by snow and steam, completely alone. Adrian pulled her close, and Maya went willingly, her legs wrapping around his waist. "This is surreal," Maya said, gesturing to the landscape. "Being here with you, I keep thinking I'll wake up and find it was a dream." "If it's a dream, I don't want to wake up," Adrian said, his hands settling on her hips. They kissed then, a slow exploration that built into something urgent and hungry. Adrian's hands tangled in her wet hair while Maya traced the muscles of his back, learning the map of his body. "We should go back," Maya said, breathlessly, even as she kissed along his jawline. "We should," Adrian agreed, making no move to leave. They stayed in the pool until the sun began setting, talking and touching and discovering each other. Adrian built a fire while Maya showered, washing away the mineral scent of the spring. When she emerged in soft pajamas, he was waiting, his hair still damp from his own shower. "Maya," he said, his voice serious, We don't have to do anything you're not ready for. We can just talk again, or sleep, or... Maya silenced him with a kiss. I want this. I want you. I've wanted you for 2 years. Adrian led her to the bedroom, his movements careful and reverent. He undressed her slowly, kissing each new expanse of skin revealed. When she lay beneath him, he paused, searching her face. Tell me if you want me to stop, he said. Don't stop, Maya whispered. Their lovemaking was tender and intense, both confronting their fears through vulnerability. Adrian was patient, attentive, learning what made Maya gasp and arch beneath him. When they finally joined, it felt like coming home. Afterwards, wrapped in tangled sheets, Adrian traced patterns on Maya's bare shoulder. I didn't think I could feel this again, he admitted. After Elena died, I thought that part of me died too. You're allowed to live, Adrian, Maya said softly. Elena wouldn't want you to spend your life as a ghost. I know, he said, but knowing and believing are different things. They made love again as the northern lights danced outside, slower this time, savoring each moment. And when they finally slept, it was with the peace of 2 people who had chosen courage over fear. The next morning brought devastating news. Adrian's phone rang early, waking them from sleep. He answered groggily and sat up abruptly, his expression transforming to shock and anger. What do you mean the funding is cut? That grant was approved for 3 years. Maya sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest, watching as Adrian paced the room. University politics, he spat, after ending the call. The dean cut my funding to redirect money to a more publicity-friendly project. And that's not all. He sat heavily on the bed, running his hands through his hair. The ethics committee received an anonymous complaint about us, about our relationship. Someone saw us at the conference, reported it as inappropriate fraternization between a supervisor and subordinate. Maya felt ice flood her veins. What does that mean? It means I have to choose between my position as your supervisor and any relationship with you. University policy is clear. I can't have both. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Adrian stood, beginning to dress with mechanical movements. Adrian, what are you doing? Maya asked. Getting dressed. We have 1 more day of the conference, and then we go back to reality, where this, between us, can't exist. Maya felt anger rise, hot and fierce. So that's it? You're just giving up? I'm being realistic, Adrian said, his voice taking on the cold, distant tone she remembered from before. We had a moment outside of reality. Now we have to return to our lives. You're using policy as an excuse to run, Maya accused, standing and pulling on her robe. You're scared, so you're hiding behind rules. Maybe I am, Adrian admitted, his eyes full of pain. But losing my position means losing everything I've built. It means professional ruin. And what about me? Maya demanded. What about what we found together? Adrian looked at her, and she saw the war happening behind his eyes. Fear battling hope. Safety fighting possibility. I can't ask you to sacrifice your career for me, he said finally. You're not asking. I'm choosing. But apparently my choice doesn't matter. You've already decided to run back to your safe, lonely existence. Adrian. No, she interrupted, tears streaming down her face. You told me you were tired of being afraid, but at the first real obstacle, you're choosing fear. You're choosing to be a ghost again. It's not that simple, Adrian said desperately. It is that simple, Maya countered. You either fight for us or you don't, and right now you're choosing not to. She walked to the bedroom door, then turned back. I'll request a transfer when we get back. I won't make this harder for you than it needs to be. Adrian, please.
"Goodbye, Adrian," she said softly, then closed the door between them. They maintained icy professionalism for the final day of the conference and the flight home. Maya felt her heart breaking with each mile that passed, but she kept her composure. When they landed in Boston, Adrian turned to her in the terminal. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice raw. "I'm sorry," Maya replied. Then she walked away, refusing to look back. Part 2. Unexpected proximity. Maya woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Adrian moving quietly in the kitchen area. Sunlight streamed through the windows, though in Iceland's November, sunrise came late and sunset early. She dressed quickly in professional attire, a deep blue blouse and tailored black pants, preparing herself mentally for the day ahead. When she emerged from the bedroom, Adrian handed her a cup of coffee, already prepared the way she liked it. The fact that he had noticed her preference, 2 creams and 1 sugar, sent warmth through her chest. "Ready for your presentation?" he asked, studying her with those penetrating gray eyes. "As ready as I will ever be," I admitted. "I've practiced it 100 times, but presenting to international climate scientists is still nerve-wracking." "You'll be brilliant," Adrian said with certainty. "Your research on atmospheric carbon cascade patterns is groundbreaking. They would be fools not to recognize it." The conference center was a modern glass structure built into the hillside, utilizing geothermal heating and sustainable design. Maya's presentation was scheduled for the afternoon, giving her the morning to attend other sessions and manage her anxiety. Adrian sat beside her during the morning panels, occasionally leaning close to whisper observations about the presentations. Each time his breath brushed her ear, Maya had to force herself to focus on the speakers rather than his proximity. When her turn came, Maya walked to the podium with her heart pounding. She pulled up her slides, took a deep breath, and began. Her research examined how atmospheric carbon patterns could cascade into feedback loops, potentially accelerating climate change beyond current models. She had spent 18 months gathering data, running simulations, and developing predictive algorithms. As she spoke, her nervousness faded. This was her passion, her calling. She fielded questions from the audience with confidence, explaining her methodology and defending her conclusions against skeptical inquiries. From the front row, Adrian watched her with an expression she had never seen before. Pride, certainly, but something deeper. Something that made her stumble over her words before recovering. When she finished to enthusiastic applause, Adrian was the first to stand up, leading the ovation. Their eyes met across the room, and Maya felt something shift between them, a recognition of equals rather than supervisor and subordinate. That evening, they returned to the cabin as the northern lights began their display again. Adrian built a fire while Maya changed into comfortable clothes, jeans and a soft sweater. When she returned, he had opened a bottle of wine and was sitting on the floor by the fireplace, his laptop and papers spread around him. "Join me?" he invited, patting the space beside him. Maya settled onto the floor, accepting the glass of wine he offered. They reviewed conference notes together, discussing the day's presentations and implications for their own research. "Your presentation was exceptional," Adrian said, setting aside his papers. "I've known your work is good, but seeing you present it today, I realized I've been underestimating you, not just as a researcher, but as a scientist in your own right." "Thank you," Maya said quietly. "That means a lot coming from you." "Maya, I need to tell you something." Adrian turned to face me fully, the firelight casting shadows across his features. "I've been fighting an attraction to you for months. I told myself it was inappropriate, that you were my subordinate, that I was betraying Elena's memory. But today, watching you shine, I realized I've been lying to myself." Maya's breath caught. "Adrian," he said gently, "let me finish. I know this is complicated. I know I'm your supervisor. I know I'm damaged goods, still grieving a wife I lost 5 years ago. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel this connection between us. Maya set down her wine glass with trembling hands. Adrian, what are we doing? This could destroy both our careers. I know. But right now, in this moment, I don't care. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of hiding from life because I'm scared of loss. Elena would hate what I've become, this ghost going through the motions. Maya turned away, standing abruptly and walking to the window. The northern lights danced across the sky, green and purple ribbons of impossible beauty. She felt Adrian approach behind her.
Maya Chan stared at the email on her screen, reading it 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. The annual International Climate Research Conference in Reykjavik, Iceland. 5 days. Herself and Dr. Adrian Frost. Together. Her hands trembled slightly as she closed her laptop. In the 2 years she had worked as an environmental researcher at the university, she had carefully maintained a professional relationship with her supervisor, despite the inconvenient reality that she had fallen completely in love with him. Dr. Adrian Frost was 42, brilliant, and emotionally unavailable in ways that should have made him unattractive. Instead, Maya found herself drawn to the glimpses of warmth beneath his icy exterior, the rare moments when his storm-gray eyes would soften while reviewing her research, the way his entire face transformed during the even rarer occasions when he smiled. But Adrian kept everyone at a careful distance. The whole department knew why. 5 years ago, his wife Elena had died in a car accident, and something in Adrian had frozen over that day. He threw himself into his work on planetary atmospheres with obsessive focus, earning international recognition while becoming a ghost in his own life. Maya had accepted that her feelings were futile. She dated other people, tried to move on, told herself that admiring him from afar was enough. And now she was going to spend 5 days in Iceland with him. The flight to Reykjavik departed on a gray November morning. Maya arrived at the airport with her carefully packed suitcase, dressed in comfortable travel clothes, her dark hair pulled into a practical ponytail. She found Adrian already at the gate, looking devastatingly handsome in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater, his laptop open as he worked on something with intense concentration. "Dr. Frost," Maya greeted him, trying to keep her voice steady. He looked up, and something flickered in his expression before his usual professional mask settled into place. "Maya, good morning. Please, outside the university, you can call me Adrian." The use of her first name and the permission to use his sent a small thrill through her that she firmly suppressed. "All right, Adrian." They boarded the plane, and Maya was relieved to find they had separate seats. She settled into her window seat several rows behind him, opened her book, and tried to focus on the words rather than the fact that he was so close yet completely out of reach. 30 minutes into the flight, a flight attendant approached her seat. "Excuse me, miss. Would you be willing to switch seats? We have a family that would like to sit together, and your seat would allow them to do so. We have a first-class seat available as compensation." Maya blinked in surprise. "Oh, of course, that's fine." The attendant led her to the first-class section, and Maya's heart stopped when she realized the empty seat was directly next to Adrian. He looked up from his laptop as she approached, surprise crossing his features. "Maya, what are you doing here?" "Seat switch," she explained, settling into the spacious seat beside him. "Ah, well, I suppose we should discuss the conference schedule. Have you reviewed the panel topics?" But as the flight progressed, their conversation drifted beyond work. Adrian asked about her research on atmospheric carbon patterns, actually listening to her explanations rather than just nodding along. He asked about her background, seeming genuinely interested when she told him about growing up in San Francisco, about her parents who had immigrated from Taiwan, about her love for ocean conservation.
I never knew you were interested in marine ecosystems, Adrian said, accepting a coffee from the flight attendant. Your research focuses on atmospheric science. I believe everything is connected, Maya explained, warming to the topic. The ocean, the atmosphere, the land. You cannot study one without understanding the others. That's what drew me to climate science in the first place. Something in Adrian's expression shifted, a softness entering his eyes. That's a beautiful perspective. I tend to focus so narrowly on my specific research that I forget the bigger picture. Your work on planetary atmospheres is incredible, Maya said honestly. Your paper on Venus's atmospheric evolution changed how we think about runaway greenhouse effects. Adrian looked at her with surprise. You read that paper? It was extremely technical. I read all your papers, Maya admitted, then felt heat rise to her cheeks. For professional development. A small smile tugged at Adrian's lips, the first genuine smile she had seen from him in months. Of course, professional development. They talked for the rest of the flight about science and books and the northern lights they hoped to see in Iceland. Maya discovered that Adrian loved classical music, that he had once wanted to be a pianist before science captured his heart, that he missed his wife but was trying to learn how to live again. The vulnerability in that last admission made Maya's heart ache. She wanted to reach out, to take his hand, to tell him that grief was not something to overcome, but something to carry with grace. But she kept her hands folded in her lap and simply listened. When they landed in Reykjavik, the sky was already dark, despite it being only 4 in the afternoon. Their research lodge was an hour's drive into the countryside, a remote location chosen for its lack of light pollution and its proximity to geothermal research sites. The lodge was beautiful, a collection of modern cabins built with sustainable materials and heated by geothermal energy. But when Adrian approached the front desk with their reservation, the manager's expression shifted to concern. Dr. Frost, I have your reservation here, but there appears to be an issue. Maya felt a sense of déjà vu, a terrible premonition of what was coming next. We have you booked for 1 cabin, not 2 separate ones. I apologize profusely. With the conference, we are completely booked. There is no way to secure an additional cabin. Adrian's jaw tightened. That's not acceptable. I specifically requested 2 cabins in my booking. I understand, sir, and I take full responsibility for the error. However, the cabin is quite large. It has a separate bedroom and a living area with a very comfortable sofa bed. Adrian turned to Maya, conflict clear in his expression. I can find you another accommodation. There must be hotels in Reykjavik. Maya considered the offer. The drive back to the city was an hour. The conference started early tomorrow morning, and the whole point of staying at the lodge was to be close to the research sites. It's fine, she heard herself say, even as her heart raced. We're both professionals. We can share a cabin for a few days. Adrian searched her face, looking for something. Are you certain? I'm certain, Maya said, hoping her voice sounded more confident than she felt. The cabin was stunning, all windows and natural wood with a massive fireplace and views of the surrounding landscape. True to the manager's word, it had a separate bedroom and a spacious living area. But it was still one shared space, intimate and private in a way that made Maya's pulse quicken. I'll take the sofa bed, Adrian said immediately. You should have the bedroom. Adrian, you're much taller than me. The sofa will be uncomfortable for you. I insist, he said firmly. Consider it an apology for the booking error. Maya wanted to argue, but recognized the finality in his tone. She unpacked in the bedroom, her hands shaking slightly as she hung up her clothes. Through the open door, she could see Adrian building a fire in the fireplace, his movements practiced and sure. What had she gotten herself into? That evening, they had dinner at the lodge's restaurant, a cozy space with local cuisine and views of the star-filled sky. Over pan-fried Arctic char and roasted root vegetables, they talked about the next day's conference schedule. But Maya found her attention wandering to the way firelight caught in Adrian's hair, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the sound of his rare laugh when she made a joke about their competitor's questionable research methodology. When they returned to the cabin, the northern lights had begun their dance across the sky, ribbons of green and purple light that took Maya's breath away. "It's beautiful," she whispered, standing at the window. Adrian came to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "It is. I've seen them before, but they never lose their power." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the lights shift and swirl. Maya felt the tension building between them, a charge in the air that had nothing to do with the aurora and everything to do with proximity and loneliness and connection. "I should go to bed," she finally said, her voice barely audible. "Big day tomorrow." "Maya," Adrian said softly. She turned to look at him, and the intensity in his eyes made her forget how to breathe. "Thank you for agreeing to this arrangement, and for the conversation on the plane. I haven't talked to someone like that in a long time." "You're welcome," Maya managed, then forced herself to walk toward the bedroom, each step feeling like a battle against gravity. As she reached the door, she heard Adrian's voice behind her, so quiet she almost missed it. "Good night, Maya. Sleep well."